everybody, welcome to the channel, All Things Business. And today I've got one of my favorite speakers. I always tell him this for the last 5 years. She's been on my other channel. What I love him because we do calls there, and he's one of the special guests that's been on there for like 4 years already. And we just want to thank him to take time out of his busy schedule to come into the studio today to share with you the difference in traditional business, working for somebody, and also the power of what network marketing can do for you and your life and your family from this day forward. So with that said, I'd like to introduce my dear friend, Mr. Dean Tarrolly. Dean Tarrolly, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Appreciate it.
Good. Thanks for stopping.
This is awesome.
Yes, it is. You're awesome. Thank you for stopping in the studio, taking time out for your busy day. Tell everybody a little bit about your background, where you live, what did you do for the, prior to getting into that industry?
Okay, well, my background had nothing to do with this business, nothing to do with this industry at all. So I was bartending at night. I was managing a really successful bar in Hollywood. And I was doing that 3, 4, 5 nights a week, getting home at all hours of the morning. And when that one job wasn't bringing in enough money for me, I did what most people do. I got a second job. And the second job, I had to make sure did not get in the way of the first job, because as bar gigs go, it was really good. So my second job, I got in the golf memorabilia business. So I dealt with a lot of charities and hospitals, golf tournaments, things like that. So I had a very late night job, managing a bar. We don't get to go home when you all go home. We have to clean up after, and managing employees and schedules and stuff. So that was at night, and then the golf business and that business during the day starts early. So I was working late hours, starting working early in the morning. So I was working morning, noon, and night when a friend of mine introduced me to this industry. So I did have a familiarity with residual income because I do have a background in the entertainment business. I've done a bunch of TV shows and commercials, and but never enough of them to not have those side jobs, because my priority is taking care of the family. So I was a very typical story in Hollywood, having side gigs, but I'm very lucky. I've worked and traveled and done a bunch of stuff, but never enough to not have those side jobs. So I was extremely busy when a friend of mine asked me to take a look at this, and of course my answer was no. But it was no. It wasn't no because I wasn't open. I was open. Yeah. It was no because of my schedule. I just couldn't imagine putting one more thing on my plate. Right? And then he asked me a second time, and then he asked me a third time. And the fourth time he asked me, I actually said, okay, I'll take a look at it. And had my friend not asked me to look for a fourth time, we would not probably be sitting here right now. I wouldn't have the friendship and the mentorship from you and a bunch of other people. So very grateful to my friend that he didn't take my third no as my last no and asked a fourth time. So I did understand residual income from the entertainment business.
So it took persistence is the key, which one of the 5 things I think everybody have, that persistent to be successful. He just showed that the guy asked him 1, 2, 3, okay. And I've heard people say, well, I'm just going to say yes just to get out of the way, so ask me no more, and I get it over with, and they're in the business.
Right.
So it was persistent that got you.
Yeah, and so I knew, because he asked a few times, I knew it wasn't necessarily a fly-by-night, flash-in-the-pan thing, because he kept asking me, and I think I always knew I was going to look. I was probably way more open than I would have admitted at the time, but I wasn't open because of any, preconditioned idea about networking in that model. I think it was just, I just couldn't imagine putting something else in the schedule. Like, where am I going to find time for it? But, thankfully he did, and we just moved a few things, moved a few of the different separate meals on the plate to create a little more space, and here we are.
Because it sounded like your schedule was so busy, you were basically falling asleep on the wall, but you had some success with residual income in Hollywood.
Yep.
Commercials, wasn't it? Yeah.
Commercials, TV shows, some movies and things that I've shot years ago that still pay residual income, but over the course of time, residuals tend to go down over time.
Yes.
Where in a business or an industry like ours, your residuals can grow over time.
That's the difference with Hollywood and us, and I can't act.
I could have said so many things, but I didn't.
He had, in other words, he was familiar with residual income and how it worked. He said, wait a minute, if I do something one time, it keeps coming month after month, after year, after year, after decade. And in the industry he was in, it would go smaller over the decades or weeks or months or something. But yet still he understood the facet of it. And then he found something that gave me, a beautiful thing. So you went down to the meeting and saw the opportunity. Tell us what happened after that.
So it was was really interesting. So I went down to see kind of a bigger picture of the company and the opportunity, and I saw it, and my belief went through the roof when I saw all the people that were there. So that was a big thing at first, is like I saw all these people, and all these people weren't there for me. They were going to be there anyway. So that definitely brought down some walls, number one. Number two, after hearing the information again, getting paid on these bills, and it just made sense. So I decided then and there, okay, I was going to do this. But what was interesting is a gentleman who presented, I went up to him. I'm kind of shy. I'm trying to work my way through being shy. And
An actor shy.
and I said to this gentleman, I'm like, I know you. And he said, well, he said to me, I know you. And I said, dude, I don't know you, but you don't need to say that for me to do this. This makes sense. I'm going to do it. He goes, no, I know you. And he said, did you ever work at Shutters on the Beach? And I said, no. See, I told you, I don't know you. He goes, did you ever work at the Hard Rock? Now, at the time, the gentleman who presented was at one of the top positions in the company, and he was like maybe top 10 in all of production, whatever, very successful. And he looks at me, he goes, did you ever work at the Hard Rock? And I looked at him, I said, which one? And he goes, the one in the Beverly Center in the other side of the hill. And I said, yeah, I worked the door for like 2 years. He goes, right, I knew you. I was the busboy.
Wow.
So I said, dude, if you're the busboy and you're now a top VP in this company, I am 100% in this business because I was the doorman. I had to deal with people all day long, and he's a great guy. And I guess the lesson would be he built a team that was so big. He never talked to me when we worked together, but I still ended up on his team.
Wow. So let that be a lesson to some of you. Here's a busboy. So don't look at the word prejudice. Life and that means prejudge. Don't prejudge anybody to any industry, whether it's network marketing, real estate, or business. You just don't know what they have a desire, what's inside them. And here the busboy went on to blow it up, get to the top of the marketing plan, and he still fell in his organization. That's a crazy story.
100%.
I never knew that about you.
100%.
Wow.
100%.
So what did you do when you got in? Would you work at part-time, full? What did you do?
Oh, super part-time.
Okay.
So
okay. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one of the best parts of I think this industry is you do not have to quit what you're doing to do this. In fact, my advice would be don't quit what you're doing to do this. Fit this into the nooks and crannies of whatever windows of time that you have, but be consistent and treat it seriously. You can, as I've said on many of your calls for a long time, that you can be a part-time professional in this. And I made a decision to try to become a part-time professional and learn the skills and the things that we needed to do to build the business on solid ground. So the thing I would say is absolutely, my advice would be start part-time. And as you start to gain some knowledge and some skill set and some success within your organization, you may have some choices on where you can spend your time because maybe some income coming in that's offsetting maybe the job and the boss and the time-laden sort of like thing that we all grew up.
Yeah. Well, if you've done such a great time, we've been in different countries together on different trips.
Yes,
Tell us about some of the trips we've been on.
This is what's so hard because there are great rewards in this business.
Yes.
And I will tell you, just as a side note to what you just said, Mr. Thomas, I think the biggest rewards probably come from helping the people in your organization and watching them succeed. But there are great results from being able to do that. And man, we go on some of these trips and it's literally pack your bags and the company takes care of everything else. And because they understand that we're out there, we're working and building and developing and growing a business and acquiring customers and building a team and doing this. And they recognize and understand that look, it's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be worth it. And this has been so worth it, right?
Good,
it's been so worth it. And the trips are, they're great. The old joke is the difference between a trip and a vacation is someone else pays for a vacation. And we like them, right? So the company covers that. And we've been to, I don't know how many places we've been to. Mexico, the Caribbean, and a bunch of those places. And it's been a blast. But one of the best things is, we've had dinner together. We've had a chance to, have drinks overlooking whatever, and also having mentorship and learning and getting the experiences of other people on those events. So it's great.
I respect him so much. A lot of times on this trip, he always brings his daughter with him. Never his wife, he always brings his daughter.
She's got horses. She can't leave.
She got horses. Yes, and it's beautiful because I've watched his daughter grow up through the years. As a matter of fact, the last time we did a call on the other channel, your daughter was around the house and she popped in to say hello to everybody because we're always asking about her. As a matter of fact, sometime when I introduce him on the other channel, when we do these calls, I show a picture of him on vacation with his daughter, or I'll show him here with his daughter, because I want people to know could be a family business. What a blessing to be able to teach your youngsters, or young adults, or teenagers, the power of having their own business is this, so later on when they get to a point they can have one and develop their own organization. That is so powerful.
Yeah, I think the idea, right, is I hope that all of us would want to leave things better for those who come behind us, right? Like that should always be, I would think that would be the goal for a lot of us, or most people, and I did not grow up learning anything necessarily about entrepreneurship. And that's nobody's fault. It's not parents' fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just that wasn't the environment that I came up in. And to have my daughter be a part of that environment here, to meet people like you, to meet the other leaders that are in this, meet the co-founders of the company. It's what it does. It doesn't necessarily mean she will ever do this business, but what it does mean is that she's going to have knowledge and understanding that there's more than one way to provide and to earn a living and to do those things, and to see some of the rewards that come from it. That's been fun. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. We've been. I remember in the Bahamas. I remember on the cruise and different places we've been. Every year, a different place we'll go and travel. He's always bringing his daughter. And you've been such a great mentor to so many people that I see, and I love that you help and share no matter what you can give, and you're always there to help people build their business. So now that you got into the business, you start doing pretty well. When did you go full time?
The compensation plan and the marketing plan over the course of time, it changed and evolved as sort of my business grew. And for me, the answer was very simple. It was when my business, in the company that I'm in my business, when it started to match what I was earning in one of the two jobs, what I did is I started spending less time in the golf business.
Yes.
Right? And this started to kind of compensate for that. And then as we continued to grow, then I started to do less hours at the bar. And by the way, I let that go second because it put me in front of people a lot, so I could have a lot of conversations. So I hung on to that for a minute. And then for me, it was probably I want to say 5 years or so. And then I could really focus on doing this full time and still do commercial auditions and things like that. So I also think that it wouldn't take someone now as long to do it because we have so much more to market. Yeah. And there's so many more opportunities, within our organization at least. I think.
Well, I think the good point is, people, you don't have to quit what you're doing. See, that's what I'm saying. And he said, you don't have to quit what you're doing. He did this part-time for the next 5 years, and then it's like, I think I can leave now. See, that's what we're saying. This could be I love what the side hustle. No, it's not a side, it's building a business, a legitimate business.
Correct. Yeah, in fact, I feel so strongly about not doing this full-time too soon, because I think what happens is when someone does that, they have this sort of pressure that they feel to perform and produce, and then it almost becomes like you have to chase people down, and there's this weird thing that because you don't have this maybe more of a steady income while you're building your entrepreneurial dream, I think it's really important to have that, so you're not coming off as someone who's chasing or
I need this help. I need this help.
Kind of a little bit of desperation, and just kind of let the chips fall where they may, and just continue to get good at what it is that you're doing. I think what people might find is they'll attract more people by being that person, as opposed to, what's the kind of the cliche thing is burn the ships. Well, people can do that and still have their job. When you burn the ships, what you're really saying is, I'm making a decision to do this and to do it well, and I'm not going back. But I wouldn't do that at the expense of making sure that your bills are getting paid. Part-time, until some things start to match up, which could give you choices and give you some options that you can exercise.
My philosophy's always been, I don't care if you join me or not. Because when the people know you don't need them and you're there really for them, they go, this is different. He's not trying to sell me. And one of the things I tell people, when I hear that word sell, I tell people, don't curse at me. That's a bad word in my book. There's 3 S's. I'm here to share some information, how you can save money on services. And I keep it real simple because it is simple. But when people, they always have those walls up. So
right. Yeah, and I think you know, if people know that someone genuinely cares about their success, about their development, if someone knows that they genuinely care about them advancing to whatever degree they want, by the way. So when someone gets started, you know, I imagine you probably feel the same way. It's like, I'm not telling someone to hit this position or that position. I'll be here to help you hit whatever position you want. Just meet me halfway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I won't do it all for you because I'm not going to steal. See, if I do too much of the work for someone, or if you do too much of the work for someone, you kind of steal their victory because they have to go through the stuff to get to that victory. And that's part of what builds confidence. And you got, you know, some scar tissue, like you've been down that road before. I think that probably defines, or one of the defining elements of a really good leader in a networking business. You went through it, you've been through it, so you can help someone through it.
yeah, that's amazing. That makes a lot of sense, folks. So here again, the whole idea, being a good coach, coaches, we're here to guide the people. We'll do the work with you, but we're not going to do it for you. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, because if you do the work for them, you steal the most valuable thing that they get, which is the experience. Like, they have to go through it. And why would you take that from someone? They have very, very little chance to develop into a leader if you're doing all the experiencing of what it takes to do that. You got to let them do that.
All right. Because with that experience, then they can coach other people.
Correct.
Because they have the experience of their belt.
And welcome to duplication.
There you go. Duplication is so important. I crack up when I see people, hey, I'm a coach. And it's like, dude, you're 22 years old. You only been around, what, 3 or 4 years as an adult? I mean, you're a coach. It takes a while to get to master that. I call it being masters.
Yeah. I mean, how many people out there do we see that are giving advice on this, that, or the other, but we have no idea what they did.
Right.
We have no idea what they went through. And I think it's always better that this idea of being a player coach, like, you did it, you went through it, and you can help someone. I had the conversation literally today at this event that we're at, and the conversation I had was, in our business, I think it's a very safe space in my estimation, because no matter where you are, there's going to be people that you're helping, mentoring, and assisting that are on your team. And then there's people who will help, assist, and mentor you, and you are on their team. And it's just like if people really understood how that's a very comfortable spot, because you're always going to have a resource and someone to go to, but you can be that resource for someone.
That's very true.
I just warn people about, don't be a manager, be a player coach. Do what it is that you're teaching, and your chances of your business growing consistently are pretty high.
That's awesome. So I think I've kind of helped. We talked in Vegas when.
Yeah, man. Well,
you want to share that?
I'm happy to share that. So, I have had and we joke about this a lot, but I've had and I do consider it a privilege that I've had a chance to do coaching calls on your Zoom. I think it's legitimately, we're on every other month, Thursdays for 4 years now.
Yep, been 4 years, that's right.
And I tell people this all the time. So just to dovetail on what we just talked about, we had an event in Vegas, and I know that you remember this, and people should know this, is that I was already a regional vice president, and I was going through a challenge. And this was an event that you were one of the main people at this event. And I asked you in the middle of the event, and you probably saw it, I had some stuff that I had to get sorted out for me to try to take my business to the next level. And I asked if you would take a few minutes with me, and we left the event and walked in the hallway, and you sat, listened to every word I said, and gave me some advice and coaching that, by the way, you should know, and obviously you know, there's no financial interest in you spending that time with me. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, that how grateful I was. And I remember that conversation as clear as day, and what it meant to me to have you take that time. And it was a part of this business and a part of my journey in this that I will never forget, because you didn't have to do that. And we were still getting to know each other, and you took time away from your team and your group and your responsibilities to do that. And it wasn't only the advice that you gave me, and I'll say this to everyone, it wasn't just the advice that Mr. Thomas gave me, it was how he delivered it to me. And you can tell when someone genuinely is listening, and someone genuinely wants to help in any way they can. And that's what happened to me. And it was a moment that I will never forget in this business. So, I mean, I do tell people, and I say this on your call all the time, the environment that you create for all these different people from all these different teams to be trained and taught is amazing. But if someone has the opportunity to work directly with you, you know how I feel about that personally. And I would tell you, do not take that for granted. I do not take it for granted. And quite frankly, I know the company and the co-founders don't take it for granted. So, you know, it's, yeah, I learned a lot. Being inclusive, serving other people, being an example, right? Doing what you're training. And I've seen all those things from you as long as I've known you. So
thank you.
I've learned a ton. I don't know how much time we have.
Thank you, my friend.
I mean, that's real.
You know, let me ask you this question. People are looking out there thinking about starting real estate, network marketing, traditional business. What kind of advice would you give our audience out there that's listening?
First of all, I would say absolutely look. Like, it can never hurt to look. And in my experience has been the more successful someone is, the more open they are. I've also found that sometimes when people maybe aren't as successful, like they, for some reason, become more cautious and skeptical, and they probably need it more than anybody.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
So when you find successful people, it shouldn't surprise you that they're positioned in this industry. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this, is when you're looking at this industry, I would encourage you to find something that resonates with you. To me, a service-based business resonated with me. Like, it just made sense. I was already participating in it. But take a look and see if something resonates with you. And then I would encourage you to meet the leadership. Whoever invites you to look at their company, their opportunity, meet the leadership and have a conversation with them and just see how you feel. Your instincts are probably going to be right on. Just, I'd be careful about who you take advice from in your personal life.
That's
right?
very true.
Like, well, we did one of those things. I ended up with a garage full of this or that. Well, what'd you do? Did you ever get trained? Did you ever go to an event? Did you ever treat it seriously? And I think the majority of time, if people are really honest, you know, I kind of dabbled in it and it didn't really work. Well, if you dabbled in it, it shouldn't have worked.
That's right.
Right? So, so that's my advice would be: look at the industry, understand the value in it. Part-time, a residual income business where you are in control of your time and your schedule. And there's no glass ceiling. You can get out of it what it is that you want. And I will share this as well. So
please do.
I think, you know, sometimes people will say, well, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. Not true. 100% not true. Not in my opinion. Here, if done properly, you can get way more out of it than you put into it if you work with and help and develop and put other people's interests ahead of your own, help develop them independently. You'll get way more than you could ever do by yourself. So
yeah, who was that said that? Zig Ziglar said if you help enough people get what they want,
correct,
evidently you'll get what you want.
Correct.
So you got to give first.
Yep.
And that's what's powerful.
Yep.
And last question. People out there are listening today, what would you give those people who are in business, no matter what business model they may be in, and they're struggling versus real estate, network marketing, or traditional? What would you say to those people out there that are struggling? What advice would you give those people?
Yeah, my advice would be yesterday's done. You know, all you can do about the time leading up to this minute is learn from what you did in the past. Try to recognize what went well. Try to recognize maybe what didn't go the way you wanted, and that's a pretty good roadmap moving forward. I think is if you're in a business that is struggling, I'm not gonna ever tell someone to leave what they're doing. What I would tell someone to do is seek the advice and the counsel and the experience of somebody else who's being successful in an industry. Find out what they're doing, have a conversation with them. People might be really surprised how someone very successful in any industry, and Al Thomas in our industry, will actually sit down over a cup of coffee with you and share something with you with no intent other than to give you information and kind of like see what happens there. I don't think it's a roll of the dice at all. I think information is king. Get informed. And then make a decision.
Wow, that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from my dear friend, Mr. Dean Tarrolly.